Good morning, good evening. Welcome to week 6 of MPAI 600 here at Georgetown University's Applied Intelligence Program. We're actually probably more than halfway done after you've done your paper. We're about 3/4 of the way done with this course. So, congratulations on almost being done. And please continue the effort until the end of the course. And actually, please continue the effort into your next course as well. So as I say this, I am from a personal aspect. By the time you watch this, I will have run the Army 10 miler. I don't know if anyone else is running that this weekend, but it is when you don't prepare for it, or I haven't prepared for it. Hopefully, I'll be good. I'll be on my feet at least when you see this. It'll be after Sunday probably when you see this. So hopefully, I'll still be alive after I run it. So, and good luck to all those that are running it. So, announcements. Paper 2 is due. It's due probably right today or Sunday, 11:59 p.m. So, please get it in. I think we went over it in the Zoom session, the Zoom conferencing session on Thursday. I think we had a good I thought it was productive. Please, if you didn't think it was productive, let me know. If there's something you think we should have focused on, let me know. But I think it was, we got some good feedback, and I think everyone at least has a good idea for the paper going on. We're going to have a Zoom session on 19 October, and we'll do the same thing where we'll talk about the paper, talk about the final, and any questions, and then we'll go into a jobs talk about careers in the federal government. So current events. Yeah, so Las Vegas. We're still, as of Saturday, we obviously know who did it, and it looks like he was a individual that did it with no conspiracy or group behind him. Obviously, he's not a terrorist, although it depends on what your definition of terrorism is. I have a feeling if this guy was Muslim or he came from Saudi Arabia, we'd be calling it terrorism all over the place. That's just my opinion. But this will bring up two big issues: the gun debate, and then it will bring up the gun debate, and then gun restrictions to terrorists or people who have mental health issue or people who show radicalization. Let me start off with just the gun debate, the assault weapon debate. This guy apparently had several assault weapons. Apparently, he modified them to achieve maximum goal or maximum effect. What we have to ask ourselves as a society, is this really worth it? And just keep in mind, these mass shootings, they're common, but the chances of you being involved in a mass shooting is, again, 1 in a million, something like that. So the trade-off is, so you have the people that get killed in these very highly publicized incidents, and then the people who don't want guns, but they want assault-style weapons. So that's the risk and trade-off. I don't know what to say about this. I'll give you my opinion again. Even though there's a small percentage of people that are involved in deaths or gun deaths are from these type of assault weapons, I see no need to have one of them. Again, I'm just my personal opinion. You can feel free to disagree. It's not about home protection. It's not about certainly not about hunting. It's really about, I want to have one of these guns. I'll let you decide whether that's a safety issue or not. I'll just leave it there. What I will say is the issue that comes up is the terrorism watch list, and obviously this wasn't terrorism, but oftentimes it's, can you cross-check the no-fly list and the terrorism watch lists against gun purchases? And this comes up, it came up when we talked about people on the radar, who are on the radar of law enforcement, but in our country, in the United States, they can be no-fly, they can be selectee lists, they can still go and purchase guns. There's no restrictions. Now, there's two things about this. One is, if someone's on a no-fly list, they should not be able, according to theory anyway, be able to walk into a any gun shop or any gun convention and purchase any weapon. An FBI background check does not prevent that. FBI background check is only for criminal activity. It is only someone on the terrorism watch list can still purchase that. And they're saying, hey, we need to push these watch lists out to point of purchase for guns so that person can be denied a weapon. The other part of this is you got to flip that on its side here and ask, okay, someone pops on a no-fly list and they pop on a terrorism watch list. We would like to backtrack the types of gun purchases that person made. That is very, very important evidence for law enforcement. Again, if any of those people that you saw in the EU documentary or in any of the other documentaries that you saw, if you saw them that they were on the radar of law enforcement and then they had just purchased 10 AR-15s, that is a huge indicator of some sort of potential terrorist attack. However, that would require a national gun registry. That would require every weapon would have to be tracked at point of purchase and put in some sort of federal or government database that can be queried when someone comes up on a no-fly or selectee list. I am not sure our political class would acquiesce to something like that. And I'll just, again, leave it at that. So just wanted to review week 5. I think we had a good discussions on both the EU discussion as well as the lone wolf issue. And we're going to actually tackle that on the final. So hint, hint, lone wolf, how do we defeat that will be on the final. So just some key questions, key takeaways from this week. When does radicalization get monitored further? So the Fort Hood shooting, you saw the video as well as my lecture and the reading on that. So that begs the question, when does radicalization get monitored further? At what level do we start radical or looking at people with higher scrutiny? Now, on the Fort Hood shooting, people have said, well, he was a military officer and he had all these indicators that you saw in the reading. Well, okay, and maybe because he was a military officer, that's one category. But if he had, let's say, Adal Hassan had worked in the private sector, does he get put on a watch list for the actions he has done? That includes, espousing fundamentalist Islamic teachings, as well as communicating with a known or suspected terrorist. When does radicalization, does that deserve scrutiny? Yeah, probably. Does that deserve him being arrested? I don't know. Does that deserve someone following him 24/7, which is a very difficult thing to do? I'll let you decide. When does it deserve further? Should someone go on a list? When they're passively watching videotapes or YouTube videos of Anwar al-Awlaki? When they've liked him on YouTube? You know how you can like things on YouTube? When they've become his Facebook friend for one of his Facebook pages? When they've interacted with his followers on a chat session? Or when he's communicating back and forth emailing. Again, what is radicalization? What is the steps of radicalization? And when does it deserve, again, to get put on a list? And just keep in mind, we're in a democracy here, so putting people on lists is something that we should take seriously. When does it deserve some sort of surveillance, passive surveillance, active surveillance, arrest, or something along those lines? And think through those steps for radicalization and what to do about it for the future, not only just for this class, but for counterterrorism in general. People on the radar. What do we do on this? This topic came up on Thursday. It came up in the EU lecture. In Europe, again, in Paris, these people were known on the radar. They were known or suspected terrorists. In the United States, Adal Hassan was on the radar. The Tsarnaev brother was pseudo on the radar. The Orlando shooter, he was kind of on the radar for some of the things you've said. So this happens over and over and over again where people are on the radar of law enforcement, but they're in that gap that I mentioned where they can be scrutinized or they're showed some sort of element of radicalization. However, they haven't shown enough to be arrested. And that gap is going to be is the key point here of terrorism we're talking about. Again, homegrown extremism, lone wolves, those types of issues. Do we have the appropriate funding structures or people? Again, when you're talking about, and again, hint, hint, one of your final questions is going to be about, why do we still have these issues of terrorism, or why, despite the billions, trillions spent on counterterrorism, why do we still have these, lack of communication? One person doesn't talk to another. We can't connect the dots. What is the issue? And is it an issue of funding? Is it an issue of structures? Do we need to reorganize intelligence? Do we have the right people, the right trained people there? Or is it just stuff happens? Again, in the Fort Hood shooting, the Defense Communication or Defense Criminal Investigative Service did not talk to the JTTF, or they did talk, but it just wasn't followed up on. Is that just something that can be cured with better training, better people, more funding, or is it just stuff? I hate to say it, but stuff happens. You can't stop everything. So I'll let you decide and think through that issue as we go forward. And then should we just accept it? Maybe we can't do anything in a free society about lone wolves. And that's a very politically difficult thing to say. But again, it is a free society. That guy in Las Vegas, what could we have done to stop that? And then what could we have done to stop the Orlando shooting, the Boston shooting? Is it just something we have to accept in a free society with the constitutional protections that we're just going to have these things happen? And I'll let you think through that and argue about that in discussions in the future papers. So moving on to week 6, again, criminal intelligence. So we talked about counterterrorism, and this is how intelligence is used to aid local law enforcement. It can be federal government, but we're looking at really echelons below the federal side. You'll get the lecture from Dr. Lemieux, who's our program director. If you haven't met him, you will meet him at least through the lecture. This is his level of expertise. So he's going to go in detail on that. What you're going to discuss is CompStat, which is a series of, it is not a computer program, but it is a way to measure police accountability, which is credited with declining crime rates, so that police captains and precinct captains are given data, or their outputs and inputs are measured analytically, and this can lead to a decrease in crime. Or does it? And we will let you decide, and you'll come up with that in your readings. And then that begs the question again, what led to the decline in crime? And for those of you who don't know, we've had a significant, over the past 30 years, decline in violent crime, property crime, murders. We're talking about a 150% decrease over the last 30 years, and it's only now beginning to tick up a little bit. And the question I want you to keep in the back of your head is why? A lot of the proponents of CompStat and broken windows policing and criminal intelligence will say that policing got better. Policing just got more effective, it got more efficient, there were sometimes more cops on the beat, and this led to the decline in crime that we saw. Other people will say it's demographics, the baby boom generation is just getting older, and old people tend not to commit crimes. The crack epidemic has lessened, although we're now facing a crystal meth or a opioid epidemic. Others have said that one of the controversial, I don't mean to get offensive here, but the abortion. This was brought up in the book Freakonomics that when abortion became legal, the potential criminals down the line were aborted. And that's why you had a sudden decline in crime. And I'll let you decide what you think were the proponents of the decline in crime over the last 30 years. But we're going to look at, is criminal intelligence or better policing or intelligence-led policing a contributor to that decline in crime? And then we're going to go into law enforcement technologies, and this is really the Boston Marathon documentary. So last week we talked about Boston Marathon as an intelligence failure. Here we're going to look at Boston Marathon as a criminal act and how we caught the guys after the fact using camera forensics and bomb data forensics and those types of post-event analysis that it is a part of the criminal intelligence scheme or criminal intelligence area of study. So that's where we're going to go for week 6. And then week 7 will be the business intelligence side of the house. So again, please hand in your papers. I look forward to your papers, and I should have those to you by the end of this week. And as always, if there's questions or issues, please let me know.